Hi there everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm the GCSE science teacher. In today's video, we're going to be learning about fossils as evidence of evolution for GCSE biology. I hope you guys find this video helpful. If you would like more videos like this, let me know in the comment section. Feel free to thumbs this up, share this, and do subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for all your support already on my channel. It is incredible to see so many of you join. And yeah, I'm really glad these videos are helping you guys. So thank you again. Let's talk about it then. So what exactly are fossils? You've probably seen a fossil before, but if you haven't, I will link some incredible resources in the description box. I am a big fan of museums. I love a museum. One of my favorites is the Natural History Museum in London and also the Natural History Museum in New York City. Both are incredible and have some beautiful artifacts there. I will link some resources for you. But anyway, what exactly are fossils? Well, fossils are the remains of organisms. So whether it's a plant, whether it's an animal, they're found in rocks. And these are ancient beings. These are things that used to be around millions of years ago, thousands of years ago, and they are incredible because they tell us the story of the earth. They tell us the story of where we came from, because we know from our previous videos on my channel that we are all part of this idea of evolution. We have come from simpler organisms and we've developed over time depending on selection pressures. And fossils that we see, we can get them from loads of different places on Earth. They're often found at beaches. And in the 1800s, there was a scientist called Mary Anning, who was an English fossil collector and paleontologist. She lived in the Dorset coast. This is now known as like the Jurassic coast. And essentially, yeah, she was not really well respected at the time because she was a woman doing sciencey things. That wasn't really the done thing at the time, but she is an incredible pioneer of her time, and even now she's an inspiration really, because what she did, she would go along the beach, she would walk around and she would find fossils and she would collect them, and people would come and visit her from all over the world. So how they form is essentially the organism will die. Okay, so it's a plant or an animal, it will die. Other animals will eat them, predators, for example, or herbivores if it's a plant. Let's specifically look at animals in this case. So if it's an animal, the organism dies and the soft parts of the body will decay or rot away, depending on the factors around it, whether there are uh, detritivores, so things that will actually destroy and break down the matter, the organic matter that's there. But also, certain conditions for decay are needed. So you need to have moisture, we need to have oxygen. These are key components for decay. So if all of those components are there, the organism will decay, the soft parts will be eaten and decay, and what will be left are all the hard parts. So the bones, the shells, the teeth, all of that that doesn't really easily and readily break down. So those remains are actually covered in sand, in mud, in sediment and soil over millions of years, years and years and years. And you can see that in the layers that are on the right-hand side there. And what happens is the minerals that are found within that soil or within the sand or in the mud will actually be deposited within those hard bones. And this is what we call mineralization. And this replaces that organic tissue, because remember, bones are cells, cells that are living and respiring, but they will then be preserved through this process of mineralization. The calcium deposits will actually build up essentially from the soil and the minerals within. Anyway, once that occurs, the fossilization process has occurred and forms, and the remains are found within rocks. So many years later, people can actually dig these up and find them in layers of rock like you see here. So if we have lots and lots of layers, this is a really common exam question. They'll give you a picture and it will look something like layers of rock, and they'll say which fossil is the oldest. Remember, if this takes years, all those layers build upon one another. So the lowest fossil form or the lowest organism will be the oldest. The one at the top is the newest. So that's just something to bear in mind if you do past paper questions on this topic. You will need to know also how fossils form. So here we are. These are the key points. Make a flashcard and you're good to go. So, like I said, if the conditions for decay are absent, some organisms' remains will actually be preserved. So, this is another type of fossil or preservation method that can occur naturally. So, for example, we've got amber. This is when insects typically are trapped in sap that comes from trees. They might be flying around trying to find a food source. They land on tree bark, and sap from the tree will actually encapsulate it fully. And this stops any oxygen or water getting into and breaking down and decaying and causing that insect to rot. And therefore, you get a really interesting overview of what that organism looked like in its full entirety. So, this can be really useful to help us see exactly the type of wings that organisms had, especially with insects, because those are more delicate tissues that not really are able to be seen millions of years ago because they have broken down and rotted over time. So fossil records looking at amber is actually quite helpful. We also have footprints of organisms. We have rootlets and burrow traces. So this is how animals have burrowed underground, or how plants have essentially spread their roots in the soil. We even have unfortunate cases of humans that have actually been fossilized, but it helps us understand how humans have evolved as well. So there's somebody called the Tollund Man. I will put some information in the description box for you about this. It is literally an individual who was preserved fully in his entirety because of the conditions that he found himself in. He fell into a bog, and it essentially caused his body to be preserved. We also know of other preservation methods. If you are an Egyptology fan, I really enjoy learning about Egypt and ancient Egypt specifically. And we know that the ancient Egypts, the Egyptian people there, they did something called mummification. This again, in theory, is a way of preserving the body, and therefore we can learn from those artifacts, if you will. So that was quite helpful for scientists who discovered the ancient ruins in Egypt and in the pyramids as well. I will link some information if you are interested. It's kind of linked. It's not really GCSE knowledge, but it is really, really interesting nevertheless. So I'll put that in for you in the description box, and I hope you find it helpful. Now, this is GCSE content. Fossil records are incomplete, and you need to know why that is. Well, it's actually a bit of common sense, really. It is incomplete because we just haven't found all of our fossils yet. We found loads, don't get me wrong, but we haven't found every single fossil on Earth. So they are constantly being discovered, and that's why there are gaps in fossil records. It's also incomplete because early life forms specifically were often soft-bodied. They'd not developed that protective casing, the exoskeleton, or even, specific skeletal features that we see in more complicated, complex organisms that are on Earth now. And this is because there was not really that selection pressure. There wasn't many predators as there are today, and the evolution just hadn't evolved. It hadn't become more complex. So early life forms are soft bodied, and therefore there was nothing really left behind after the decay process, and that's why we don't really see those. They may have been damaged as well. So a lot of fossils, a lot of records that we have are fragile because they're thousands, millions of years old as well. So they can be damaged just through geological means, like earthquakes, for example, but also in the transportation process. Scientists, are very skilled in what they do, but again, sometimes damage can occur along the way. So that is also why fossil records are incomplete. So, overall, what can we actually learn from fossils? Well, they tell us a great deal. They tell us about how organisms have evolved, and it gives us evidence of evolution to substantiate what Darwin was saying. We can also see how closely related organisms are to one another, and we can look at primitive life forms, specifically the ones that are very, very old artifacts that we have. We can actually see, right, this is what organisms look like at the beginning. It gives us a better picture, a bigger understanding of the world around us. So I love fossils. They are amazing. They are just so cool to look at. So yeah, they are super helpful, and this is kind of why we learn about them at GCSE. If you stayed to the end, thank you so, so much. I really appreciate it. I've been the GCSE science teacher and you have been curious. If you did enjoy this video and you would like more like this, give the video a thumbs up, share this with someone, especially if they're revising or you know that they will be revising soon. Maybe they're in year 10 and they're going to be doing their mocks this summer, or maybe, you're doing your GCSEs this year. Let me know either way. I hope this was helpful. And yeah, it would be great if you could stick around. So subscribe, click the bell. You get notified every time I upload. It is once a week on a Sunday, 12 noon. So yeah, thank you so much for your time and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.